Good afternoon, everyone. We've got very little time, Hugh, so I'm here for one reason only. I want to sell you a book. I've got 15 minutes to do it. This is the book, The Innovation Architect. I'm in the wrong conference. I'm not going to tell you how to be an innovator. I'm not interested in that. I'm really interested in innovation architects. These are people who create space in organizations where innovation takes place. In other words, it's a problem that we're really dealing with. Big organizations spread across many countries and having managers needing to have their people being innovative. Essentially, the innovation industry has fooled you. It's fooled you into thinking that if you're a good innovator, that's good enough. But really, the question is, as a leader, can you create a space where people can innovate? So that's what the book is about. It's about a lot of other things, and here's a question for you. What do you think is the best-selling management book of all time? Don't all shout at once. I know you know that. Over there, I heard it. How to Win Friends. Wrong. Over there, the Bible. That's a great management. Yes, slaughter your enemies. The Art of War. Yeah, you see, people are so aggressive. Any other ideas? 7, as long as it's got a number in it, it should work. No, it's wrong. Who moved my cheese? Absolutely. Who moved my cheese? It's rather depressing, isn't it? That this was the Amazon book of the decade, 500,000 book sales in the first year, orders of 10,000 books at a time. We academics like to knock books, but I love this book. I want my book to be like this book. I want to sell you a lot of books, 10,000 at a time. Fantastic stuff. But look at this. Look at how people evaluate the book. Amazon's page. You've all seen this kind of thing. Have a look in the corner over there, and what you find is, amongst the reviewers, you're moving between people who thought it was a great book, others who didn't. This is an amazing thing. If you look up Harry Potter, what you find is everybody thinks it's a great book. There are very few ones. What is this about? Let's have a look at some of the positive reviews. Positive review. After reading this book, I quickly determined that it needed to be a required reading for my staff. It shows just how overnight change can happen and that we have no choice but to deal with some shape or form. I know once they understand and appreciate the process, the training and the change becomes less intimidating. Wow. What about this? Who Moved My Cheese? A really great book for teens to read. It teaches them how to accept change and move on with their lives and not to stay the same. Good stuff. What about the negative? Patronizing drivel. What about this? This book presents excellent reading for absolute imbeciles and people high on drugs. It's corporate brainwashing of the kind that science fiction writers have been warning us about for decades. Never have I come closer to the mind-crushing monotony and impersonality of corporate America than when I read this book. Any manager who would try to force these ideas on their employees would be better off just spiking the coffee with antidepressants. Now, you notice something here. The people who loved the book didn't love it for themselves. They loved it for you to read. You, an employee, to read it. How many people have read this book? That's fantastic, fantastic. Half the audience, more than half. How many people have actually bought it? Yeah, nobody. I mean, it was given out to you. I mean, an incredible thing. And you might as well give somebody this book, How to Lose 30 Pounds, Get a Life, and Stop Being Such a Loser. It's exactly what your boss would give you. Oh, your ex, you know. Yeah. It deals with this problem in our organizations, a disconnect. We really have a disconnect. Yesterday afternoon I sat here, and a lady at the back there somewhere, a teacher, stood up and said, the minister said we can do this, But we can't because they passed a policy stopping us from being innovators. The disconnect between management and the rest of the organization is huge. So that when we start to talk about innovation in our organizations, the first thing you're going to have to deal with is exactly this, the disconnect. That's the starting point. Now, the second thing is the way we actually teach in innovation skills. I personally think most of the innovation courses you go on are a fat con. They're about flip charts, they're about post-its, they're about everything that doesn't help you. It's about brainstorming. It doesn't help you with the reality of your organization. And what you need to learn is stealth storming. Now, what is stealth storming? Stealth storming is getting your idea in under the radar, getting traction on it while your boss is asleep or passing policy. This is a critical thing. So when I look at real organizations, and we followed, I mean, we didn't only interview real organizations, we wrote lots of cases about this. We've got this materials out there in the public domain. You can download this stuff anytime you like. Here's a case we recently wrote. It's about this man, Jordan Cohen, and Pfizer Works. Pfizer Works, the basic idea was this. You've all heard of email, that concept. Excel, you probably handled Excel. PowerPoint, you've probably heard of, you're using that. Twitter, you're listening to all of these, you hear all these technologies, you incorporate them, you assimilate them, and you have no life. You find that your email, your BlackBerry's taken over your life. It's 24/7. The thing is flashing all the time. You get a call 3 o'clock in the morning from your boss who says, I hope I didn't disturb you. No, I was only sleeping. I had to get up and answer the phone. So, you know, you've got this problem. So Jordan says, we're going to push back the technology. I'm going to give you a life. I'm going to outsource all your PowerPoint, all your Excel, all your analytical work. I'm going to outsource all that email stuff, and I'm going to give you a life so you can get on with your job. It's a bit frightening for some people because if you're going to move email away, I'm not going to do email. What am I going to do all day? I mean, I don't do anything but email. You know, it's very frightening. But when you look at what Jordan had to do, here was the issue. Jordan had to start off by convincing his boss and then his mentor. He had to get a foothold in the budgetary system, below the radar. He then had to convince his team. He then had to say, what I'm going to do is get a test going, a pilot group of 6 people who will test this concept. Not a representative sample, because that'll destroy me. 6 friends inside of Pfizer who will give me some traction, give me some understanding of where I'm going. And then he had to start working on who was he going to outsource it to, and he had to find somebody in India, because in India they made lots of promises but didn't deliver particularly well. So he had to find somebody he could trust in India, who then had the Indian team. He then expanded the whole thing to a sample, a pilot group of 50 people. And did they make mistakes? Sure they did. It broke down all the time. But he said, tell me about it, we'll get to the breakdown, we'll fix it up. We need to know that. We don't need our enemies telling us why it doesn't work. We need friends to tell us how to make it work. And only at that point, did Jordan go upstairs and say, I've had an idea. Now you'll notice management, they get lots of presentations in which people have an idea for somebody else to do it. But Jordan doesn't do that. He says, we have traction. We've got 50 users. We're underway. I just need $1 million to make this thing fly. Now, there's no risk to the management, because management like to say no, because the risk is huge to them personally. There's huge risk. Reduce the risk to your senior management, and you're in business. So Jordan does that. He says, we have traction, we're flying. He now goes to 4,000 users. That's the number in Pfizer at the moment who use this technology. And he's only aiming at 80,000. So important to realize, he doesn't put his head above the parapet until he's got a lot of traction. What we learned from this case in particular, the huge difference between creativity and improvisation. The one thing is to have an idea and say, I've had a brilliant idea. There's another thing when you go into the field and you say to somebody in the field, we've had an idea, can you make it work? It's the people in the field who keep saying, somebody in head office had a good idea, boy, is it a loser. What you need to teach them to do is to improvise, so that we forget about that part. We think our ideas are so strong, we're so creative, we forget about the people who have to make it work, and that's important. So creativity and improvisation, stealth storming. Now, here's somebody I need to talk about. Paddington Bear. It's been really cool doing this bit about the future. But I'd like to say something. Forget the future. Here's somebody you need to look at. You remember this guy? I'm going to do my Humphrey Bogart accent because I've got to tell people before I do an impersonation who it is, or else I don't know who it is. Here's looking at you, kid, says Humphrey to Ingrid Bergman and her husband as they get onto the airplane. You remember the closing scene in Casablanca. What is missing from this scene? What do you notice not here? This. The trolley suitcase. I mean, you all noticed that was missing, didn't you? In fact, they both had a trolley suitcase. This scene would not have worked if they'd had, bye, Rick. You arrive at the airport, you notice all love scenes, that sort of, hello, darling. You arrive in Barcelona, you say, hello, darling, somebody will steal your case. I mean, you've got a real problem here with the trolley suitcase, but it's quite intriguing to look at how did the trolley suitcase come about? We all got them. Where did it come from? And it seems to be the airline industry started the whole business. And the concept put together two ideas. The wheel, the suitcase. All I had to do was combine it. You didn't have to look very far in the future. These are technologies that have been around for a long time. As long as man has been on the move, he's always had a wheel and a suitcase. Anybody who went to boarding school knows that feeling. Now, here was the important thing. The airline industry. This is a photograph of the flight out here to Melbourne. This is Qantas flights. I believe you call it Qantas. Is that right? Jack Coyne keeps telling me that. It's rather odd. See the three guys at the back having a pipe. Now, this all started. Here's a photograph of Ryanair, Total Lights, the advertising idea. This all started about 1950, and suitcases came on the scene how long afterwards? Suitcase with a wheel. What do you think? How long do you think it took?
52.
Oh, 52. That's very good, but horribly wrong. 72. 22 years later, a guy at Samsonite said this. I said to my wife, that's what we need for luggage. Eureka moment, mate. What about this? When did you start using that trolley bag? Yeah, long after that. Look at that. Now, it is interesting here in this industry, opportunity spaces existed. Opportunity space. You didn't have to look far into the future to come up with a very innovative idea. The technology existed for thousands of years. All you had to do was put it together. Stop looking to the future. Look in your organization now and start innovating with the things that lie around you right now. So forget the future, look back, right? And my fourth insight is this, and it comes a little bit from a presentation you saw yesterday. This is what Tom Peters told us a long time ago. Ready, fire, aim. Remember that? Ready, fire, aim. Now, when you're going to big organizations, you find the management tell you, hey, listen, our people are fantastic at execution. They're terrible at strategy. Our people can do things, but they don't innovate. They're great at execution. And it arises that we've got organizations of tremendous doers, but not thinkers. And that's a challenge. And that makes it time for a drink. Here, if you look, this is a glass of wine. If you look at the wine industry, it's fascinating to look at the simple idea of buying a bottle of wine. It's Friday, your boss is coming tonight. Buy a bottle of wine. That should be easy. Except, how do you buy that bottle of wine? First you go price, then you go color, red or white. Then you say, whoa, there are a lot of grapes here. There's a Chardonnay, there's a Cabernet, Tempranillo, I don't know, there's a lot of grapes. Oh, and then you've got to buy by country. Oh, yes, it's Australia or Chile or France or South Africa or Spain. You failed geography at school, but now you've got to know the geography of these countries to know the regions where the wine is coming from. Notice that the entire industry is set up to intimidate you. Everybody's thinking along the same lines. When you walk into that store, here it is. You're intimidated. So you say, whoa, I should have taken a course. I should have taken a course in wine tasting. Right, and that's what it's about. Enter Bottle Rocket. Bottle Rocket's 10th Avenue in Manhattan. This is what it looks like. Hey, you're having seafood tonight. It's fatty food. Right, let's go for it. You're having meat? You've invited your boss. It's a Chinese takeaway. What wine would you have? I mean, these are deep intellectual issues that we're involved in. And in fact, they've got a special section here, the boss. On the side, you can't see it from there, on the side it's got your third date, you know, which confirms what your ex said. You're a complete loser if you don't know what wine to buy on the third date. So it's not that this is so different. What is absolutely shocking is that an entire industry is set up to intimidate its customers. There are very few people. I think there's a store in Auckland. There might be one in Sydney. I don't know. I wouldn't expect one in Melbourne, but I've only been here 24 hours. This is an amazing thing, an absolutely amazing thing. How do we all think in the same way? And that's the challenge. That's the challenge. Can we, in fact, think differently about the solutions we have? Could we, in fact, frame the problems differently? Now, to end this, and I've got 45 seconds, let me end it on this subject here. The problem with our models on innovation, they're static. They don't take into account that most of the managers in your business are involved in what is called revolving door management. The tenure of a leader on a job is no more than 2 to 3 years. That tells you you should be looking very differently at innovation and implementing it in your organization. You only stay on the job for 3 years. 1,000 days in which you've got to come up with the idea, build a team, sell it to your boss, and implement it. This is a very dynamic model, and it changes the way you think about innovation. So I'm going to love and leave you at that point. This is what most managers have, is, you know, they just have projects on innovation. Stop that kind of thing in your organization. These are the 4 main points. You're dealing with disconnect, stealth storm, open space, framing problems, tackling the revolving door. Thank you very much for listening. Okay.